Left Wing Kingz. Listen, think, act, repeat.
So in a world where gig work, social media, sports and entertainment are becoming increasingly prevalent, it's essential to kind of highlight the importance of education to our youth, because sometimes they just don't see the value. They're looking at all these other things happening around them and they're like, I could do this, I could do that. And education is kind of falling off, man. So today we're going to discuss some ways that can help inspire our young black men to pursue higher education. And I'm going to start off with tool number one, which is mentorship. So mentorship can have a profound impact on black youth by providing guidance, support, and real-life examples of success. Dr. B, how have you been able to leverage mentorships to help youth in our community?
With me, it's really just been about giving back with whatever your expertise and whatever your talents are. I think a lot of times we shy away from it because we feel like maybe we don't have anything to provide to the youth. But if you're a mechanic and you know how to fix cars, I mean, that's how we used to do it old school.
Yes,
I remember
sir.
back when I was young and my granny and everybody, we used to have block parties. And so people just used to share whatever knowledge that they had on the block. It was everybody raised, it was a community and we raised each other. And that's how we learned, whether it was through the church. And so I've always tried to get back where I feel like, where are my strengths, right? And my strengths have just historically been in music. The understanding the power of music and how it really helps. It's a love language. It's a language that allows us to communicate in a way that it doesn't matter what race or culture or wherever you come from. It's a common language that we can all speak. And so for years I've invested in giving back, mentoring within the schools. I've done that every year since I was 18 years old, since I graduated. I've spent over 20 years really working with the schools, and it wasn't anything I needed to do loud. I didn't need to scream it from the top of social media platforms. Like, look at me, I'm over here, doing this
show
thing.
off.
No, not at all.
Exactly.
None of that.
Exactly.
Because when it's genuine, you do it. And
Yes, sir.
When I was fortunate to be in a music group, we was on the south side of Chicago in the schools. We were in the inner cities, and I learned from those moments. When I had my opportunity and I was in those places, like I always wanted to continue that. And so
Right.
when I came back to San Antonio, I connected with, at the time it was assistant superintendent of Judson ISD, rest in peace, Dr. Marcus Nelson. But he was the individual that I was able to connect with, and we got in the schools, and he allowed me to use music. It was,
That's what's up.
he understood that he had students that were different, but he understood that, hey, if we can connect with them through rap or whatever form or channel that they're accustomed to listening to, let's connect with them. And so we used that power, and we were able to reach them and inspire kids through songs. And I see people to this day where they're like, oh, I remember that. Like, I remember, the jingles. And I remember, I used to think that, because we would take songs that were out there. Shout out to my boy, View Stevens. We would take songs that were popular, and then we would completely flip them and remix them. And so when we would do that, that was our form of, like I said, mentorship. We were reaching the kids to where we were teaching them education through these songs.
That's what's up.
And it just resonated, man. And so to this day, kids still come up to me like, yo, I remember,
They grown now, though.
Yeah, they grown, but it got them through those moments where, you're struggling and
That's dope.
So we just, use that power.
That's
I mean, that's awesome. A good hands-on approach to, getting in there. And I think that's kind of what you're focusing on. It doesn't matter what you do. You can do that, like you said, in neighborhoods, but also corporate America. People come get hired or whatever, and you see somebody there and show them how to navigate in a room of sharks. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, mentoring, I think, is a big part of getting to these black males. It's funny, since before we had the meeting on Wednesday, it seems like every day I've been talking about this in one way, shape, or form. And I said a couple of days ago, I said, look man, black girls got the memo. And I look at my family.
Sure did.
Yes, they do.
Black girls going to college, getting their degrees, starting up businesses or something. But it's something about these black males where we just missed it. I don't know what it is.
And I'll tell you, I did something that, the older you get, I didn't grow up in the social media the way it is today.
Right.
But one day I jumped into a TikTok conversation where we was having that same discussion. And it was black females talking about their prerequisites or their requirements in dating black men. And there were certain things they felt like, hey, if I have a degree, I expect, the person I'm with, maybe have one. And then, of course, some of us, our guys came in and they, black males, and they were going, well, but what if I have this? Well, what if I have that? They was trying to kind of negotiate that. But I'm like, if that's their standard and they're telling you, hey, I want someone who has a degree that brings something to that situation. I mean, who am I to say, who am I to argue with that?
That's
I
right.
mean, I had to understand that perspective. If we're changing the tide, we're going out here, we're fighting the good fights, we're putting ourselves in the conversations, we're having those healthy debates, we're represented in these corporations, and we're doing the things that we need to do to be at the table, then we got to do our part as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I had a young lady, it's funny, that works with me. And like I said, man, since we had this meeting, every day I've had a conversation, and she was on the same thing, young, she's in her 20s and kind of saying, and I told her, I said, you know what, I don't, and I understand that there's prerequisites. I said, but he's at least got to have drive like you do.
Right.
That drive's got to matter.
Right.
I mean, dude may, be an ASC mechanic, you know what I'm saying, and that's his drive or whatever.
Exactly.
I say, but if you outdrive him, I can see why you don't want to be with him. Like, you driving and getting degrees and stuff, and and my cat is just, okay with trying to be a TikTok influencer or whatever. Like, nah, that don't match. You know what I'm saying?
And I'll say this. It's probably a lot easier to say when you have all the degrees, but I didn't have them at one point, right?
Exactly.
This is something I had to do. I had to really put my hands, throw my hands up and say, okay, let me look at the deck. I did all these other things, and we'll get into that. But I did these other things where I shot for the stars, right? I landed on the moon. And I noticed that I wasn't getting the level of respect. I wasn't getting the opportunities. I was getting overlooked. Even though I had the experience and I had the knowledge, nobody was respecting it because I didn't have the papers associated with it. Because I was always thinking too, like, hey, if I go out and do the work, it should matter.
Right.
And that's when it really, and then I think what really hit me was I realized, wait a minute, I went through, K to 12. I never had an African-American male teacher, and I'm not talking about coaches or, principals or anything like that. I didn't have a single male teacher that was African-American. As I started going through college, same thing.
Right.
And then I started to realize the power in that. Like, that's what really, made me want to focus and get into academia. It was understanding that I might be that person for so many other kids that didn't even see that possible.
Yeah.
And what can we do to change the tide? Because too, I also start realizing there's opportunities in education and research and really doing our due diligence and understanding and writing our history. I know we're going to get into that, but being able to write our history, having an understanding of the research that it takes to get the stories correct, and who to go to, and just doing things correctly. And so just having that power and that understanding.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I mean, a few things that you said really resonated with me. The first thing that you said was around community. So this is going way back to the beginning of the whole conversation, where how we used to get down, like block parties, and then you would learn things about your culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That you would learn. And we really need to embrace that again, and really need to be able to share everything. It's not all about, education is around learning. It could be learning about your culture. It could be learning about the right way to live life. It could be you can get, like you said, you might be getting your ASC for your mechanic, and that's your drive. But your next drive might be to become the head mechanic, or to be the manager, or you still have a drive. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, that whole culture and the community and the brotherhood, that we don't all have sometimes, and we all need, is really important. The second thing was talking about groups and what groups are out there as to be able to support Black men in their journey towards educating themselves. And one of our homeboys, Wendell Rover, he goes by Tex Rover on Facebook. What's up, Tex? Is in a group in Atlanta. It's a men's group. And y'all talked about how the women are all united and around educating themselves. This group is around Black males bettering themselves, the power that we have, leveraging that, and also education and community and things like that. So hopefully, Tex, you hurry your ass up and bring your program here to San Antonio, man, because we need you out here.
We need that.
No doubt. And then the third thing was the point that you just made around I just lost it now. So I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to just move on because it doesn't make sense to just keep dwelling on it. But you did bring up a point about social media that you brought that up, how he wasn't big on social media, but social media is big today. You know what I'm saying? And that's tool number 2, the digital literacy. So there's workshops that teach digital literacy skills that help Black youth leverage social media and other online platforms for educational purposes. So basically, how can you leverage social media to help you learn, right? And there's a lot of different ways because people are leveraging it today for things like, just like you said, something you didn't do, like trying to show off, right?
I was gonna say bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. Trying to show off some
We the
bullshit,
biggest comedians, man.
get some
Everything's
giggles, shit like that. But you can learn that shit. You can use it to learn. So, Dr. B, how does the inclusion of online platforms influence our youth to continue their educational journey past primary school?
I think it's very instrumental because I'm at that fine line where I'm raising two young Black males, and I have to understand that I don't want them to be at a disadvantage if I'm not allowing them to use the technology.
Yeah.
But I also understand that I don't want them to have too much of that time to where it's distorting their minds and their understanding of their growth and what they need to do to develop. And so it's the new medium, right? Our phones, classes are being taught through cell phones. All these things are happening. So what I'm recognizing is it's okay to have an understanding, but spend some time really truly researching. So I hate when I see people like they start speaking on topics, right? But they're speaking on it from this perspective of like what someone else said on Twitter, like whatever the narrative is. They
That
just
meme mentality, you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Thank you. The meme mentality is like drives me
That's the worst
absolutely
thing.
crazy. It's like no, get
I
away
hate
from
that.
that. That's not research. Like
Nah.
deep dive, like really go to reputable sites that do this and start pulling stats. Like, I try to go to like Pew Research. I try to go to Gallup, some of these bigger companies, and I pull and look at articles and I try to see where we stack. And my favorite one, I mean, not my favorite one, it's the worst one, but it's the one I've been quoting because it really, really took me back was when I looked at, they did a study a few years back and they were talking about the average household family by race, how much they make. And I don't know if y'all seen that study.
Yeah.
But it said that, the average white family was making, at the time, I think it was 171,000. And it said the average Black family makes 27,000. So it was like, for every dollar the average white family makes household income, we make 10 cents on that dollar. That's what it averaged out to. And I thought, first thing that came in my mind was, wow, there's a lot of capping going on in our community, man. A lot of real big capping.
Real
Sure
big
enough.
capping.
Big capping. Like, because all you money bricks and
Yeah.
we got all this money, we got all 27,000. And then that's the median. So the big ballers are stretching that number.
yeah.
And that was the number.
But the funny thing is, and I'm just gonna bring this up real quick, like, when they're holding that stack, whose money that is. It ain't theirs.
Yeah.
It's-
Behind the scenes money.
Yeah, that's that money that they generated through the sales of whatever they were selling that is going to somebody else. They just holding it at that moment until they give it to the proper owner of those funds.
And let's be real. People who got money in the bank, like, ain't nobody gonna go out and just pull out all them bills and just have them around for what?
For what?
You can't keep track of that. Like
Hell
everybody know
no.
you can't keep track of no hard cash. Like
No.
So yeah, but yeah, these kids be showing off, man. But yeah, that's crazy, man. 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, and
There's a lot of broke people out there.
A lot of broke people, and I know we're gonna get into that affirmative action, generational wealth comment, talking about the DNC, but
Yeah.
but that goes to show you, like when I look at that piece of it, like that's the part again, education. Like what are we doing? Financial literacy. Like how are we impacting the curve? I'll tell y'all a story. Again, I'm in the schools and I'm talking to the students, and for years I would go to different schools, East Central, and shout out to the school districts there that would have me speaking, and I would like to talk about banking and talk about financial literacy. And I know I get it. A lot of times the kids are enamored with the police officers, the wrestlers, the firemen, and all those fun things. And I would try to talk to them a little bit about, the fifth graders. Hey, are y'all investing? Or do y'all have a bank account? Do y'all have this? Do you have any, like a debit card? Anything that you're using to understand financial literacy and how money works, and any kind of money instruments. And a lot of times it's foreign language, man. They have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, it really hit home at the time when my daughter was in fifth grade. And I was able, she goes to private school. She's been in private schools. And when I was able to do a comparison where she was at versus the kids that was in her level, it was mind-boggling, because at that point when she was the fifth grader, she was investing. She had stocks in Starbucks, Amazon, and McDonald's. Like, she already has her own debit card. She's already doing things, and she already understood the concept of financial literacy. And it was just things that it wasn't like I was overtly in my house like I'm not like doing anything crazy where I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all can't watch TV. Y'all just
Right.
gotta learn about this. Like,
break out your spreadsheets.
yeah, none of that. It was literally just, it was just the concept of just having that dialogue. Something simple as just playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
I tell her, this is the best game, to play. And we're going to have a Monopoly night because you need to learn how to acquire assets. You need to learn. That was it.
Yeah,
just something
so-
simple. And then having the little subliminals that you drop in the context of a game where y'all having fun. That was it.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Something that resonates with them.
I was gonna say, but part of that problem is their parents ain't financial literate. You know what I'm saying?
Boom.
We all know that. I always say this, like, I learned how to buy a house on a whim. My mom didn't buy no house,
Right.
So I got out there. I made big mistakes. You know what I'm saying? But I learned.
But you learn.
So, but now I can eventually have that conversation with my children. But let's be real. As black people, we just never had that knowledge. Stocks and bonds. Like, I'm teaching my mom about stocks and bonds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they those generations didn't invest in that. We didn't get that kind of stuff.
Get rich quick. Get that money.
Yeah. Oh no, or it's just education. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandparents. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't. And I remember, like, you just couldn't walk in and go get stocks and bonds. You can invest. It ain't like Robin Hood. Now you just go in there, you put money in there or whatever. Even Cash App, you can invest in
Right.
stocks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But back in the day, man, you had to have a stockbroker.
Yep.
I mean, black people couldn't even get in the room with a stockbroker. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times. So, that's one of the biggest crutches to financial literacy with black people right now is just that we're generations behind on that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And I love that you touched on that because I'm one of the first. My mom had 7 boys, bless her heart, and I was number 6. And so that tells you my humble beginnings there. In
Yep.
the sense of just always having hand-me-downs, always having to strive and understand. So I learned a lot from watching everybody else. I would watch what everybody else was doing. Okay, they hustling here, they doing this, they doing there. And I would always say, okay, this is the result of what everyone else is doing. And to your point, it was, okay, well, how do I change the curve? We're giving away money, we're doing this. So what do I need to do? And so you made a good point because you said the auto thing. Before I got a degree, the first thing I actually got, before I got any degrees or anything, I actually got my real estate license.
okay.
That was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
As soon as I got my real estate license, I stopped renting. I was 23 years old when I bought.
Knowledge, you understood.
Once I learned, I said, oh, okay, that's where. Didn't have it all figured out, but I knew enough to say, you know what, where's the money at? Where do I need to go to stop? Because I'm giving away $500 back, oh God, when it was $500.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
I'm giving away $500.
You don't even look that old, man. Right. $500 rent old? He don't look that old.
Man, I'm about to say, well, how old do you think I am?
Well, I mean, I ain't gonna guess your age. Man.
Well, I just turned 40.
I would say 27. Nigga. Like, I don't.
I just turned 40. And
You still got your hair on your head.
I know that's, and I just cut it. That's what's crazy. Everybody's like, man, you just cut. You had a
The
full
last-
deck of hair.
No, year it was when I got a fade. It might have been the 90s when I got a fade. Biggie was alive when I got a fade.
I appreciate it though.
It
Man.
was all a dream.
It was
Oh
all
my
a dream.
God.
I was playing in the barbershop. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Hey,
all right.
But real quick, man, the digital literacy thing that's critical right now because that's a space where everybody's at. Like you said, we weren't in it, but now we in it. And we need to leverage it to not only to help our kids be able to understand, like, hey, you can use this as a tool. This is a tool to help you get to where you want to go. Like you said, help our parents, help ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we really need to make sure that we're leveraging these tools to help us because they're out there and they're fucking free.
Yeah.
Right. Don't be afraid. My advice with that, don't be afraid to take risks. Now, obviously, don't bet what you don't have to lose.
Right.
You don't want to do nothing crazy, but if you got $50, start make informed decisions. Go on YouTube University. I mean, again, if you're taking the right steps, and I say real estate, these are some ways where you can build financial wealth. Obviously, you want to, as you get more in tune with it, you'll learn the markets and when to buy, when not to buy, and all those kind of things. But in the beginning, you gotta fail fast. You gotta really put yourself out there and just take some risks because if you're the generation, if you didn't have an example where someone can communicate with you and talk with you, you kind of have to put yourself out there to start learning those things. But I will say this. I mean, now it's in the palm of your hands,
Yeah.
man. Like we don't really have an excuse as like our generation, our kids coming up. Like I can understand, like what you said earlier, our parents and our grandparents, they didn't know stockbrokers, and they didn't have these influential people in their community. Yeah, they had obstacles and hurdles that they had to overcome. But that's why it's important education, like for it to be at the forefront today, because they didn't have that 50, 60 years ago. We do. So what are we doing with it?
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, like you said, you can talk to a financial advisor right now on your phone. You can chat with somebody
Right now.
and you can also click that like button. Okay. So if you like the content that you see, and make sure that you click on that like button, and also make sure that you subscribe to Left Wing Kingz and share these videos on all of your social media platforms. So let's get down to tool number 3
Yes.
for educating the black male and helping them move forward, and that's Afrocentric curriculum. So incorporating African American history and culture into the educational curriculum can make learning more relevant and engaging for black youth. It's kind of like what you did with the rap, the rap thing and bringing that in, right? So Dr. B, how can we incorporate more African American history in our lessons to foster a sense of pride and motivate our youth to excel academically?
This is where I would touch on it, to where we have to be able to put ourselves in a position where we can get in those rooms, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not educated, and again, that's a requirement for a lot of these roles. If you go into college institutions, or you have to have at least a master's or an extreme knowledge and subject matter expert in the field of study. But a lot of times, I mean, they won't even let you in the room unless you have that degree, that piece of paper. So if you can't get in the room, how are you going to teach the content?
Exactly.
You can't, right? You can't teach your culture. Like in the courses that I'm teaching, I can discuss those things. I put on an event where I had African American males representation. I brought Sam Hurd. I brought Cedric Griffin, I'm sorry, to my institution.
Okay.
Now they're former players, but I wanted them to be able to shine light on things that they've done in the community outside. Sam more instrumental because he did have that stint where he made a mistake, and I thought it was powerful to say, hey, as black males, hey, we make mistakes too. Mind you, not one person adds them anything negative because I controlled the narrative,
Right.
and I made sure, hey, we're not talking about what you did wrong.
Right.
That's not what this is about. This is about talking about what you've done since then and what businesses you've incorporated and how you've continued to move forward, because he's a good brother. I knew him before that happened. So it was powerful to be able to bring guys in to be able to explain, Cedric after his NFL career, hey, talk a little bit about what you're doing in the community out there in Austin, because I see you on a track. You got these kids. That's your business. I see you with your barbecue business. I see you with your fitness business. Brother got 7 businesses.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Wow.
Because you learn some things, and there's some things that you can share back to the youth and explain to them, hey, it's not all about just the sports. Guess what else I'm doing to maintain those funds? Because that's power.
Yes.
We have examples of it out there, but we're programmed. I think a lot of times when we're coming up, it's sports or entertainment, and I think for a lot of us, we checked. I mean, we talk about we're the entertainment guys. We're the guys that did the music stuff, and we check those boxes, but we're also successful in our own right.
Yeah.
And that's more of those stories that we need to uplift and share, because our community needs to see that there's way more ways to get to the bag than just sports and entertainment. I mean, absolutely more ways.
When I talk to youngsters, especially when they talk about getting into music, I say, hey, I think there's a facade. You got to work hard at music. It's like anything else. And an example I always look at, I said, last time, I said, when you see these superstars, you watching them, you see concerts, those are usually on your days off. They work on your days off. So why you think you'll see them and they may take a vacation? They might be for 3 or 4 weeks somewhere because they work Christmas and New Year's and Labor Day.
24/7.
You know what I'm saying? It's entertainment. They have to entertain you when you're available. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I said, what you're probably talking about is hard work and a sacrifice. You probably be easier off doing something else.
I'm gonna really get into the gritty with it. It's hard work because you're 24/7. You're always on. You're your own brand manager.
Yeah.
Kanye doesn't have a brand manager with him every single second of the day. So when he has his moments where, he's saying what's on his mind, it's because in that moment he's managing his own brand.
No doubt.
You have to be, conscientious of that every single time you speak, every moment, anywhere you go. It's always going to be a moment you're on. You never turn it off. And I like another thing you pointed out, because if we were programmed in the music business, you're programmed to just be the talent. Hey, you take care of the talent stuff, we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Now that's backwards. That's backwards. You got people taking care. I had a business manager taking care of my bills and all that kind of stuff, and everything's getting paid until it's what? Until it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything's cool until it's not. And then it might be 6 months before you find out, wait a minute, that check wasn't getting cut. Because if I'm in control, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting my money first before I'm taking care of whatever's your responsibilities.
Yeah.
These are things, but that's why the business is important, and understanding business and having your hand in it. You can't, I see so many athletes and entertainers who they lose it all after the end of their careers. And we all wonder why, what happened? They weren't on top of their business. No, it's because they were following the system that said, go be the talent, we'll take care of the rest. No, so I applaud the guys like Jaylen Brown, people who are negotiating their own deals and saying, no, I'm not letting anybody handle my business. I've seen too many examples of where this goes left or goes right.
Yeah.
That's why, and I'm gonna bring up a sore spot with this brother right here. That's why I like people like Kawhi Leonard.
Oh,
Because
why you do that?
he don't negotiate his own damn.
had to jab his ass, poke
Right.
him one time. But I'm gonna tell you like this, man. He looks out for his best interest, and people, unfortunately, in the sports world, African Americans, for one, we have a problem with this. We always want to have like loyalty to someone, like to prove that we're loyal. We always have to feel like we do for you. Take care of yourself first. And see, well, you're loyal to the Spurs. He got his own family. He has his own life. And at the end of the day, the Spurs going to do him just like they did David Robinson. Where David Robinson at now? He worked for the Spurs. They love him because he was with them the whole time. But what are they doing for him? If he went to jail for rape or some shit, what would they do for him? Nothing. But his family would be there. His family would have his back. So you got to think about your family and yourself first. And that's why when we talk about these things, like with the music industry, and like, hey, well, this is what's done. You get somebody else to pay all your bills. You don't got to worry about that anymore, Eddie. Let somebody else do all this. They'll manage your money for you. And they back there just going like this. Just thumbing through your money. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not involved. And there comes a point when I think that as an individual, especially African Americans in the community, we feel like, I think it's a slave mentality where we have to be loyal. We got to put our heads down and just listen, just do what they tell us to do, and blah, blah, blah. And that ain't the way no more. It just ain't.
No, no, sorry.
Oh no, you good, man. I'm not gonna make this no sports,
Yeah, you
thing,
will.
and I'm not. I can't let him make it. Quiet in on this
Come on,
contract.
you could have just sat there and not said nothing.
Quiet in on this contract. So we're gonna leave it there.
You could have just sat there and not
So it
said
got
nothing.
nothing to do with loyalty.
And
He had 1 year left, man. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, and I'm gonna say this. Look, yes, he had 1 year left, but the team also understanding and recognizing the business, they had to get something for him. They knew he wasn't coming back, so
Exactly.
I think at the end of the day, it was just a
mutual.
good break. It was a mutual break. It's unfortunate because obviously, nobody wants to see their ex go off and do better without them.
Yeah.
So that was a little tough, but individually, I was happy for him because if there truly was something wrong and he was really dealing with an issue, he had to do what he had to do in that particular situation.
We'll leave that. We gonna make no sports.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the next tool.
But yeah, let me
Okay,
add
go
something to
ahead.
what you were saying though. I read an author named Scott Galloway. I don't know if you know who he is, but I read something I wish I would have heard like 30 years ago that he said a lot of people make a mistake because they confuse their talent with their passion. Few people are beneficial enough to get paid for both. It's like star athletes and superstars and musicians and stuff like that. He said there's a few people that get to do that. He says, for instance, in my case, I wanted to be the quarterback for the Jets. He said, but I found out in college just not athletically good enough. He said, that's my passion. That's what I wanted to do. He said, but I found out my talent, what people will pay me for is sales and marketing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of conversations I'm having with these guys that are in their 20s is like, you got to figure it out. Like, yeah, you have a passion to do something, but what's your talent? What are people going to pay you for? And capitalize on that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I hate the narrative of like when people say my plan B is reinforcing my plan A. I get it. You're basically telling me I'm all in on plan A. Everything is, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And I love that passion and that energy for wanting to accomplish the feat. But you also got to be honest with the man in the mirror. Like I never lied to the man in the mirror ever.
Yeah.
I might walk out in the room and tell y'all, I'm Boris Kojo, I'm Shamar Moore, I'm good looking. But when I look at the man in the mirror, I got to be honest and say, no, that's not me. I'm not the sex symbol. I'm not this. What's my place in this? What's my role? And then pivot. You know, because if you're constantly putting all this energy, you know, into one thing and you're not able to get the success of that, you know, then you go like, you know, you said, you know, you could spend a whole bunch of time and realize, man, that wasn't really, I was passionate about doing this, but that's not where my talent was.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to explore and try different things. Hey, let me figure out, like, education. I never landed and said I was going to be in academia. Like, I never said anybody I was going to be in corporate. Like, these are things that I didn't really envision. It's just I had to stretch myself. I had to, you know, get out from under, you know, just thinking I'm gonna be this superstar and say, okay, let me try some other things.
Yeah.
Take my pride. Pride is God. If I had to put one thing on, I'd say a lot of times with us is that pride. We have so much pride in it. Like, this is what I'm known for. I'm gonna stay doing it, and I'm not gonna go get a regular job. I'm not gonna hustle. I was working security before I got signed. Up until the day that I had to stop. I stopped the last day. I don't know why I was somebody's security guard. I was only $125. I was soaking wet. But I understood the concept that in my mind, it was like, I haven't arrived yet.
Yeah.
So it was like, no, I can't do anything until it's time to go. I'm not too big to go, you know, do this, you know, do this 9 to 5, get this little check, you know, do my thing until it's time to go.
Yeah, you got to be practical. And that's what I tell my sons. You know what I'm saying? You got to, you know, you can have dreams, but you have to be practical.
Right.
Yeah. But even like, if you do have a talent, right? There's always somebody out there who better than your ass. And let me tell you something. We all believe that. I believed that I was the best rapper. You believe that you was the best singer, because you got to have that confidence and that drive that you have those things in you. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of motherfuckers that can sing. There's a lot of motherfuckers that can rap. And there's not space for everybody to make it. So to your point, plan A is great. Have that drive, have that passion, try to get there, but have a damn plan B. Okay? Yeah. Just make sure you do. Now, with that being said, I want to get to something that might help you get to plan A, which is tool number 4, and that's scholarship and financial aid.
Okay.
So Black youth face financial barriers to higher education. Like you said, family of 7 boys. I had my 3 siblings in the house with me. I mean, we all had our situations. So providing them information about scholarships, grants, and financial aid can make a significant difference for our people, especially the Black male. So Dr. B, how can we make sure our youth are better informed about the financial opportunities that can help them obtain their education?
I think that's where we have to pull that page out of our grandparents' book and get back to, you know, having these, you know, block parties, doing things within our communities and re-educating our youth.
Yeah.
I mean, we own that. I think we're the generation that kind of got away with it. I always see that meme where it's like, you know, you see all your cousins in the living room having a sleepover, and we're like, we don't do that no more. We're not, you know, because we're at that place now where we're one situation away where we're tired and we're done. It's like, I'm done with they mess. I'm not fooling with them.
Yeah.
And you know, because I've been there. You know, I'm the only one of my family living in Texas, and I did a family reunion last year, and I reached a point where I was like, why am I fooling around with it? Nobody seems like they want to do this thing. Like, what's going on? We all had that moment where it's like, y'all still ain't got y'all stuff. Y'all still ain't grown up and got your stuff together, you know. But
it's a reason I left.
It's a reason I left. I don't mess with
these
y'all.
niggas.
They out of line. But
man,
but then I have to come back to it and tell myself, like, no, I can't do that because I'm too valuable. I'm too valuable, not only in my community holistically, but also my family community.
Yep.
We're too valuable. And if we have that knowledge, even when it works our last nerve, we have to find different ways to help our youth and have these conversations with them and talk about it. So it's something I instill with my family or just in friends in general. I typically don't do loans no more. So anytime you're like, hey, can I borrow this, or you loan me? I don't loan nothing.
it's a gift.
Everything's a gift, but it's only a one time. I'm not a bank.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'll look out for you one time. I'll help you out. And if I got you. But after that, like, hey, the only thing I can give you now, because you're not going to learn how to fish unless, so I can teach you.
Yep.
I can show you better. I can tell you. Because now I'm at the point where they just come around. They see how I'm living. Now I don't have to say the word. Michael Jackson effect. Hey, just come over. Just check it. You know, you come visit. Hey, wow, I see how you living. I see, oh, man. Wow, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, and it's much more like, man, you know where we came from.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Exactly.
You understand now, if you want to get here, you got to put the work in it. And I think I know what I'm talking about. You know, I got multiple revenue streams. I think I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to educate you as much as I can, but you have to be willing to listen.
Yep.
Because if you think it's just going to be handed to you, ain't nobody handing out anything no more.
Nope.
Nah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, when you started talking, made me think of another conversation I had. When it comes to family, I had to realize what my rank was in my family.
Right.
And that's overall. And I think a lot of times, especially you start hitting your 40s and 50s, your parents and older relatives are starting to pass. You got to realize that you're moving up. Your rank is different. Your responsibility to the overall family is different.
That's powerful.
And it took a minute for me to kind of realize, like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, my mom is still here, but you know, she's older now.
Yeah,
you know
she that's not her spot no
yeah,
more.
my uncle passed away. You know what I'm saying? Grandparents ain't here no more.
Right.
So I think a lot of times when you talk about those sleepovers, you got to visualize where you are and where we are at a generation on where you are. And you can't, you know, when your rank is different, you can't let the little things bother you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to hold it together
Exactly.
and say, yeah, somebody got to hold it together and say, hey, you know, we got to stay together as a family.
Yeah, and with that being said, I mean, I think it's critical to also understand not only your rank, but that people are looking up to you.
Yeah.
The family
That's part
members
of it.
are like, so if you would have just gave up during that family, people would have noticed that shit. And not to look at you in a bad way, but it might have impacted the community,
Right.
your family in a bad way. Like, look at where we at and da 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 da. I know, like our last family reunion that we got back from a few months ago, I was the MC during like the karaoke. I was trying to be Adrian over there. I was trying to be the MC, and we was having a good old time. But I had to remember, like, you know, at the end of the day, how are they looking at me? How am I being portrayed? And how am I portraying myself? What's the brand that I'm putting myself out there as a member of our family, right? And how am I going to support our family and bring and uplift us in this moment, right? So I think that like an upcoming reunions, like I think they want to do one in San Antonio or in San Diego. So to your point, I'll probably, because my mom lives in San Diego, so I'll probably be one of the main people in charge of getting it. And there's something that you have to understand about your family brand, right? That has to be put out there. And I think that kind of goes back to like what you said initially was we have to have the responsibility to show our black males like there are opportunities for you to get the funding. You can't be, because a lot of these kids out here think, man, I ain't got no money for this. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. I'm not going to be able to go to school, so I'm just going to go in the military. I'm not going to be able to do this, so I'm just going to go to trade school. And there ain't nothing wrong with trade school. Trade school is great. I'm not trying to say that. But you don't even think of the other option is what I'm trying to say.
And I want to touch on that because, thank you. I want to make a clear point on that because there's nothing wrong with trade schools. There's nothing wrong with coming back to it. Again, and you're going to learn a little bit more as I speak on it, but I went into the music business first. You know, I shot and I had scholarships. I had an African-American club scholarship at the time. I was a vice president of the club and a co-captain of the step team. So I was doing all this stuff in high school and I was very, very much acclimated. And at the time I thought I was going to Morehouse. I had a scholarship for music at Miami Coral Gables singing, but I wanted to go to Morehouse. I wanted to go to HBCU. And so at the time, it was between that. I was looking at Prairie View. I was looking at, of course, a couple Texas schools, but I had my sights set on going to Atlanta.
PV, baby.
PV was on. It was like I said. I was very, very active. Paul Quinn. I was looking at them as well. So there was, I got accepted into all the schools, and so it was, 9/11 happened, and that kind of changed my trajectory. Like it happened at the beginning of my senior year, and so when that happened, I realized I had scholarships, I had all these things, and that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to school and learn how to sing classical music, or I want to do R&B. That's what I'm about. You know what? I need to put my ears to the streets and just backpack and go do this thing. And so I gave myself a timetable. I set some goals, and I shot for it. And then I realized, the vision, with my grandmother and all the, the people that were behind me that instilled all the things into me. 10 years went by, and I realized, like, I haven't done anything with the school stuff. And that's when I said, okay, I got to pivot. I'm happy to say I did it a way where I went into corporate America. I learned, again, it was very purposeful, very methodical about, hey, where can I go? Who would pay for this? Who would do this? And I started learning and figuring things out. I don't have any student loans because I figured out how to do it, through the corporate shelf and understood, hey, but that was through the research and looking up. So with that being said, if you're in a situation where financially maybe you don't have the revenue or have the money, again, there's a lot of these big schools that are giving free online courses like Harvard and Stanford. They have free master classes and things of that sort that you could start the process of learning something find out if you're interested. I say use it as a starting point. Hey, let me learn and see if there's a lot of free master classes. Let me just take some of them. Let me see if I'm even interested before I invest fully in going down this path of maybe program project management or becoming a product owner, any of these, these fields, or IT. I'm thinking of coding, software engineer. Let me take some of these master classes. Let me learn first. That way I'm only investing, because time is the most important thing. I'm sorry. Time is, the older you get, you realize time.
Yeah.
And so that would be my advice to the youth. Before you set your sights on spending 4 years and buku dollars in one field, you utilize your resources and learn what's out there.
Well, you brought up resources, man, and that kind of brings me to our fifth and final tool, and that's support networks. So building a strong support network within the community can encourage Black youth to value education. So Dr. B, who or what are some of these community members and support groups, and how can they provide encouragement and resources to help students succeed?
So again, that's going to be tailored, in my opinion, to what your passions and what your talents and what you're interested in. But I will say one that, again, that we did with our event. We had the Bexar County Small Business and Entrepreneurship team come. Dr. Renee Watson, Black lady that runs that. She came out and spoke. I had no idea anything about that, like setting up, getting, and here I am, doing academia, doing this event, and I thought about it, and I was like, that's exactly the kind of people we need, because you got all these people who have these small businesses. I had students who have, have their own cosmetology business and estheticians, and they're doing all nails and do all these different things. And I'm going, well, how do I help these students, further, beyond just the time that I have them 16 weeks in my courses. And so that became an opportunity to, hey, you can partner. There's a lot of different, vendor jobs that you can bid for within the city. So if you have a landscaping business or any of these types of things that you're doing, you can get that extra exposure. And it's just understanding what, being aware of what's out there in your environment. So that's definitely when I would say start with, if you already have a business that you're functioning and you're doing things, and see what you can bid for contracts.
I like that. There's a lot of companies out there, and networks out there, man. People don't network enough. And there's groups out there that help you for free. And people just don't even look and do their research to take advantage of it. There's people out there, first and foremost, willing to help you. They see the drive that you have, and they're willing to help you. Those support networks are there. And then there's groups out there willing to some of them are giving away free money to help you do the things you want to do. As long as you have a legitimate business and you can, really put together a business plan and say why you're going to use the fund. You just can't walk up to somebody, give me $10,000. But if you serious about your business,
right,
and you really want the money, there's grants and things out there available to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.